Good morning out there, guys. Today, what I thought I would talk about, I'm going to continue on the Dating and Marrying a Filipina series. And part of the reason I'm doing this, to be quite honest, is it seems like these videos get a lot of views. So there are a lot of guys out there who are thinking about this and want some information, and hopefully I can share some things that will help. But today, what I wanted to share about specifically is finding a good woman. Finding a good woman, or another way to put this would be finding a true partner. And there are a lot of fantastic women in the Philippines, and guys who say that, well, they're all just scammers or they're all just looking for your green card or whatever. That's really bogus. And I may get to that in another video. So if you're looking for a wife in the Philippines, there's a good chance that you can find a great girl, a great woman, but I'm going to give you some advice that may help you get there. And the first thing that I would tell you in terms of finding a good match for you is, and this is, a lot of these things are going to sound obvious, but maybe you need to be reminded of them, is that the first thing I would say is you don't have to fall in love with or commit to the very first person that you interact with. And I'm bringing this up because what may happen if you have been in kind of a romantic dry spell and you haven't had any success, or you haven't been on a date in a while, and then you get on a website or Facebook or whatever, and you start chatting with Filipinas, you may be taken aback by how open and receptive they are to you, and it may be just the first one who responds to you or chats with you for a minute. You're just so taken aback by that you commit to the first person that you interact with, like I said. And that does work well for some people, but you need to just be cautious and realize there's more than one person out there. Now, I can share my own personal experience here. Uh, I actually was in the Philippines for, let's see, Chris and I met online in 2011, and I had been in the Philippines since 2002. So, as you can imagine, I didn't get in a hurry with meeting the right person. But one thing that I can tell you is that when I moved to the Philippines in 2002, I was 30 years old, and it had been a long time since I'd really been on a date with anybody, because in the time leading up to that, I had been in New Orleans finishing up my theological training. And theological school is not exactly a hotbed for single women. It's mostly men. I mean, there's some girls there, but you get the idea. And then I had been back here in my hometown for about a year prior to coming to the Philippines. And this is a smaller town, a good town, but not necessarily a big single scene for people in my age group at the time. So I put all that together, and I showed up in the Philippines. I was coming as a missionary. I was not coming to meet women, but I was just taken aback by how open the women were to me, and how attracted the girls seemed to be to me. And it was a little bit overwhelming, to be quite honest. And I don't want everyone out there to get the idea that I suddenly believed I was a rock star or something. It's nothing like that. But the point I'm trying to make is it took me some time just to kind of get used to that, and to have my to have my head on a little bit straighter regarding, okay, there are options here. There are a lot of options here, but which one of these would be the best match for me? So that would be my first piece of advice: is relax and don't think that you have to fall for the very first young woman that you meet, whether that's moving to the Philippines, whether that's chatting online or whatever. Be sure that you give that a little bit of time. Uh, be sure that you find someone that you really can talk to and communicate with. That would be my second piece of advice. Make sure someone that you can talk with. Now, the the language barrier comes into play here, and it may be that her English is not necessarily the world's best. But even if it isn't, as I've discussed in other videos, English ability varies a good bit. There still should be some type of connection when you talk with her. And this goes back to you don't want a relationship that's superficial. Okay, great, there's this young, pretty Filipina that likes you, but if the two of you don't connect in some meaningful way when you're talking, that's going to get boring for you really quickly. And that's one reason that webcams are so great, because even chatting with something, in the old days, the video thing wasn't quite as developed in terms of chat. So you could write sentences back and forth, but that did not give you an idea of what the conversation flow was going to be like. And when Mary Chris and I met, we pretty quickly, within a day or two, started chatting online. And that let me know that, of course, Chris's English is excellent. I speak Tagalog, so that helped. But even, I think, let's just say I didn't know any of the language, she and I would have still had really good communication. Not just because of our English ability, but because there's something about our personalities that really click. And I think all of you understand what I'm talking about. All of you have been on that awkward first date with someone where, okay, she's nice, but the two of you don't seem to have any way to connect. Okay, I'm reluctant to say anything in common, because that can mean a lot of different things. But anyway, make sure it's someone that you can talk to and connect with, because it doesn't matter how pretty she is. If the two of you aren't able to just have good conversations, you're not going to be very satisfied with that relationship. And so it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. You may meet this girl, she's really pretty, and you're just so amazed that she would even talk to you, and then you start chatting with her and there's no real connection there. Keep in mind, there are other young women out there that you may connect with very well. So again, it all goes back to just making sure that you're not falling just for the first person that you meet, unless you have some kind of really good chemistry with her when you're talking. Okay. A couple more things quickly that just come to mind. You do want to, she's probably going to be younger than you, and you want to be able to have some type of gauge of her maturity level. Now, when people marry, generally they're not both at the exact same maturity level, but there should be some type of compatibility there in terms of maturity. Now, I will say that in the Philippines, you can meet a lot of women who, even though they're very young, have taken on some very adult responsibilities. One thing that I've mentioned is my wife started working at age 19, and she immediately at age 19 began helping her family, because she has 3 younger siblings. And she immediately, as soon as she started working, began sending money back to her grandmother to make sure that the burden of taking care of the siblings was shared. And you'll find a lot of young women like that who are in their early 20s, but working their rear ends off and helping their families. And for me, that can be a mark of maturity. But of course, not all Filipinos are like that. So if you meet a young woman who seems to be a spoiled brat, then that's obviously not what you want. Finally, one last thing I'll add here is, I think you should look for someone that has similar values to what you have. For Mary Chris and me, obviously our Christian faith was very important to both of us. The denominations that we were both in at the time were slightly different, but not really significantly different. So be sure that you find someone that shares your values, that whether that's as a Christian or in some other way, it's important that both of you kind of know exactly where you have some idea of what you want to do in life. As I mentioned in the video yesterday, she's probably wanting to start a family, raise a family, that kind of thing. And if that's something that you want, then that's a starting place right there. But just be sure that you have some things like that, some similar goals and values in life. So I hope this video helps. I think that a lot of the guys who comment on my channel are married to Filipinas, and I think a lot of them will say that what I've shared here is some pretty good advice. So anyway, I'll keep doing videos, and hopefully they're going to help you.